it's all about opening doors for a patient. There is a lot of research done that shows that patients that are involved in their decision making have better outcome.
Yes.
So we should not forget it. Us taking charge over our life, over the decision, by itself promise us a better outcome. I think, mind and body
It's
connection
true.
is real.
Hi, I'm Tzvia Bader, host of the podcast series Sylvia and Me, conversations with extraordinary, inspiring women.
Hey everybody, my name is Tzvia Bader. I'm a mother of 3 girls, 2 dogs, and 1 cat. And I'm the founder and CEO of TrialJectory, which I'll tell you all about, and a cancer survivor. And welcome to Sylvia and Me.
Sylvia, thank you so much for joining me today. And I definitely want to go into your story, which is a journey that started in 2013 and brought you up to something in 2018, which has revolutionized the way people think about cancer and clinical trials. So why don't we start with your journey that started back in 2013?
Thank you for that. Yes, so I was a techie all my life, busy working, was involved in a startup at the time, not time to myself, 3 young girls. My youngest daughter was a year old at the time. When I got diagnosed with metastatic cancer. So, and it came out of the blue. It's, sometimes you get diagnosed when you feel sick, when you have a concern. In my case, the thought did not cross my mind that's what I'm dealing with. But from the moment you hear those words, and we all fear them, right? Every
Fear
time we
them,
don't
absolutely fear
absolutely
them.
exactly, like it's the thing that comes to mind every time you're not feeling well, every time something is off, you sort of like terrified that this is what you're going to be told. And for me, I wasn't foreigner to cancer. I lost my mom to cancer 20 years ago. But so when I heard those words, you have cancer, I realized that, I need a better outcome than my mom, and things need to be different for me. And I kind of also assumed that, being in the tech industry all my life, that okay, I have cancer. Let me go online. Let me find out my option. Let me make a decision how to handle it. Let me start my journey and get myself a better outcome. That's kind of where my mindset is. It's a fight. I can do it and do what I do all best, right? Go online and find what's out there for me.
Yeah, and you once, I've heard you say that when you were doing that, you kind of compared it to when you look for a new house, you go on Zillow. When you look for, whether you, and you have a real estate agent, like you had an oncologist who gave you the diagnosis, but we still, especially someone like you, wants more answers, and people do. They'll go to a Zillow, a Kayak, and so on. And so you went online and you started
My search.
Googling, yes, your
Exactly.
search, your journey.
Exactly. And like you said, we're so used to seeing our option. So I started my journey. And I've realized 2 things. I've realized on the one hand, I could find a lot of different innovation and drugs names and realizing that there is a lot going on when it comes to cancer care. So unlike my mom's day when there was only chemo and radiation, there is so much more coming into place in terms of targeted therapy, immunotherapy, a lot of interesting buzzwords. But what I've also realized that I have no clue what of everything out there is relevant for me, that is a
That's it.
truly an option for me, which basically meant because the medical language was complex and everything comes with this list of who's what this treatment is relevant to this type of person who has this type of disease, who's gone through that. And it didn't mean much to me, which kind of left me feeling kind of helpless and a little bit defeated because I knew that again I'm going back to a place that the only one who can tell me my option is my oncologist. So I need to trust my entire outcome at one person. And as much as I might appreciate them, there's a limit to what he might know. There's a limit to how much attention he can give me, understand me and my preference. And let's be honest, it's a business. Oncology is a big business. So he also has his agenda, and we know it.
And people don't understand that. You go to an oncologist and you get a diagnosis with the word cancer in it. Most people freak. And they, unless they're desperate or they're very they're like you are, they want information, they'll listen to whatever their oncologist says, because doctors are supposed to be trusted, and this one person has given them that diagnosis. So your search led you to unintelligible wording that, people in the tech world have different words for stuff that us just regular folks wouldn't understand. And oncology and medicine has wording that somebody as bright as you didn't understand because you're not a doctor.
Because I'm not exactly, and it's not intended to me. And I'll tell you a little secret. Even some of the doctor I spoke to, they don't always get it. Like, it's so complex, the research and the world, that not always they get it. But I think what's important is to say, you can trust your oncologist, you can doubt your oncologist, but you can never put your entire life in the hand of one person. You have to acknowledge he has limitation. There is 19,000 oncology trials going on in the world right now. So think about it, 19,000. Do you really expect one oncologist to be familiar with each of them? And for each of them, like we said, there is a list of eligibility criteria, meaning like who's the patient that they're looking for, of around 30 or 40. So he needs to know 19,000 different trials with 2,000 approved drugs. And for each of them, the list of who's the alleal patient, and in real time tell us this is an option for us. It's not realistic to expect that of them. And it's more than that. You have to understand that you need to own your journey, like anything else in life, right? We don't outsource major decision. You don't like we go back to buying a house, which I think, it's not the same as fighting a terminal disease like cancer, but it's a significant decision in life. We buying a house, taking a mortgage. Would you let your real estate agent just tell you which house to buy and at what price and just sign here? You'll never dream about it, right? You're going to shop around, you're going to negotiate, you want him to show you option, you want him to show you like what others in the area did. So why do we completely outsource the fight for our life? When you think about it rationally, it should not be the case. It was the case until now, because you and I just said, it's complicated. And we're not doctors and definitely not oncologists. They go to school for 7 years. So we don't understand the lingo. We don't understand the space. So we don't have the tools to actually assess anything. So we outsource it for them.
So how did you go from realizing that your oncologist was the only person to discovering anything else?
So like anything else in life, just because I didn't have much choice. So, I met this one oncologist that was as arrogant as can be. After waiting 3 hours to meet with him, spend a total of 5 minutes with me, and told me that, I'm not doing too well, which was like, thanks for the encouragement.
Nice bedside manner.
Yeah, exactly. And that he might have one option for me, but let's see, he needs to first make sure it didn't metastasize to the brain. So I looked at my husband and said, I'm not staying here, because he didn't listen to me. I don't know what he knows. Why does he have one option? So it was clear to me, this is not, so I was pushed to the corner, right? I didn't want to trust him to give me the best shot in it. So I live by Manhattan, and I knew that there is this really good research center in the city, and I have good health insurance. So I went there. So I relocated my case. That was the first step. I relocated my case. I went there. I met this really amazing oncologist that, at the end of the day, I owe him my life. And he gave me a few more options. I felt like, oh, that's good. But then I asked him a very simple question. I asked him, is what you're offering me is the best out of everything out there? Meaning you did the homework, right? You did the research. You're telling me this is the best. or what you're selling me, and I'm sorry for using the word selling, but it is only stuff that exists here. And if I'll go to another hospital, I'll get a different option. And a third, like, am I supposed to be shopping around right now? Or have you done the legwork for me and I can trust you to give me the best out of everything out there? And his answer was truthful and painful. I can only offer you what's here and what's here and I'm aware of. So all of a sudden you realize that when you need the best ammunition, right? I need the iPhone 15 in my disposal in order to win. I'm actually getting a subset of a subset of a subset. So that's where it's clicked that I need to do something different. And I took the first, so that was lesson number one. This lesson number two is when I went to this really cutting edge research institution, I've learned that in order to get the best, most innovative treatment out there, they're in clinical trials. So I always thought like clinical trial is the last resort, right?
Right.
When
you're guinea pigs, supposedly.
Exactly, supposedly. And when the medicine world has nothing to offer you, they'll offer you what they don't know if it's going to work, but they don't have anything better. So what you learn when you go to those places is actually it's the opposite. Actually, what's in clinical trial right now represent the most innovative research ideas, the most advanced one. And in cancer, it gives you better outcome. If you think about it, it's very similar to what we experienced this last year over COVID, right? If you had COVID, you wanted to be in a clinical trials for the drug because like what was out there was not working. So in cancer, it's very similar. Majority of the stuff that are approved, we know is limited, is not working fairly terribly good. We know from the statistic. We also know they have big side effects. So chemo and radiation are things that have been around since the 50s.
Right.
And we know that they make you almost sicker than the disease. And what's currently is in different phases in clinical trials are immunotherapy, targeted therapy. Those are things that have been researched for a long time and overall it be showing to be very effective. And you know, they're being taken from one cancer type to the other. So it's not that there is no data to collaborate or no logic to use them. So I've learned this would give me the best outcome. So I started my journey by saying, okay, I'll join this clinical trial while I'm going to continue looking and making sure that I have a bucket list, knowing that cancer is a journey. So I'm going to start with that, hoping it's going to work. But if it's not, then I have option. In my case, the first one did not work, which, by the way, is very common. You'll hear people with cancer,
Sure.
The first line of treatment doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it's clinical trials are approved, it didn't work. And at that point, I was just like, okay, so now I'm going to plan B. I'm not going to just look under the hood, right? I need to know that I'm choosing the best out of everything out there. And I actually started asking friends around, which is so common to cancer patients, like, do you know anybody who can help me find my option? And you sort of try to activate your network and finding. So via my friends network, I ended up with meeting someone who became a really good friend of mine, and actually my co-founder. We became partners in building TrialJectory, and she did her postdoc in NYU, her PhD and postdoc in NYU in cancer research. So she became kind of my advisor, and I've asked her to help me search around this database of trials that the FDA has and publication of approved drugs, and help me read what I couldn't read and see what's relevant for me and explain that to me. And that's how come I found trial number 2 that looked very promising, and I actually had the year and a half of quiet time. And then the cancer came back, which they tend to. And I joined trial number 3. So as you can see, I was still persistent. I was like, I think my cancer, you know how they say a dog becomes similar to the owners, or the owner is similar to the dog? In my case, I feel like the cancer was very similar to my attitude and was extremely stubborn. So then I made the choice of treatment number 3, that was again a clinical trial. And I think the story behind it is also interesting in terms of you as a patient has choices, because at that point I was giving 2 options, and there was an argument between the two, my surgeon oncologist and my oncologist. And basically it was up to me to go through one treatment or choose the other. And I knew that the one treatment was much more aggressive, will have much more side effects, will get me off balance for maybe a little bit longer. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm going aggressive now. This thing has been coming back and back. I need to go aggressive. I know that I have a high tolerance to pain. I want to do it and give it a better shot of like getting and coming out of it clean for a change. And that's what I've done. So it was my decision, what kind of tolerance of pain do I have? How aggressive do I want to go? Or I rather something that it's more mild for a longer time. And I think that's what people need to know. There's options, and you need to make decisions that are right for you as a patient. But in order to make all of it, you need to be familiar with what option, understand it, and then you can participate in the decision making and not just let your oncologist decide for you.
Okay, so you were persistent. You were not giving up. You were not going to let cancer defeat you. You also were your own advocate. And it wasn't that you didn't trust your oncologist. Well, the first one was, forget him, but you had others. There was no real central place and to get this information. And did you not then say to your husband, complain about the fact that there is no central place for this information?
Exactly.
What did he tell you to do?
To go ahead and build it.
And what did you do?
I went ahead and built it. So it's very funny. So I finished my treatment and got my clean scan in March. And then in May, I invited Avital, the lady that was assisting me throughout this research, for brunch. And she thought like I'm inviting her to brunch, to say thank you, to celebrate the fact that I got my clean scan. And I sat there and I looked at her and I said, listen, I think we need to duplicate you for every cancer patient out there. And she looked at me and she was just like, what? And I said, listen, no one should fight this alone. So you need your caregiver and your supporting family, which I had my husband, and you need a great oncologist by your side, which, like you said, I had a great oncologist. I love him to pieces. I still love him to pieces and trust him. I did not doubt him, but I needed to help him, and we needed to do it as a team in order to win it. And I said, but we also need a smart resource. You need a platform that will help you find your voice, find your treatment option, understand them, so then you can teamwork with your oncologist and make the right decision for you. And I said, let's build it.
Well, I know.
She looked at me with this belief, but obviously she believes.
Okay, and Time selected TrialJectory, which is the name of the company, which is an AI-powered clinical trial matching platform for one of its 100 best inventions of 2020. So tell us exactly what the purpose of TrialJectory is. How do you do it? It's one thing to have a great centralized database, but you actually want patients, regular people who have no lingo in all of the medical terminology to be able to get the ammunition to speak to their doctor, to take a role in their treatment, in their survival.
Exactly. So, and by the way, today we're actually got the recognition also from Fast Company for world-changing ideas. So it's really, it's exciting.
Congratulations, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
That's absolutely sensational.
So like you said, what's the platform and what's the idea? Like I've mentioned, we want to be the Zillow for cancer patient. I want to be the place that they can go and see all treatment options for themselves. And just building a centralized database where you go and search does not help you, because what does it help me if I put in, the FDA have tried it. If I put in breast cancer and I get 3,000 trials, it's meaningless, right? I'm not really a fit for 3,000 trials. and I don't need to, and I don't need to tackle it. So what we've built is we build an artificial intelligence engine. Now, a lot of people in the tech world use artificial intelligence, and a lot of us more simple people get a little bit scared by not understanding what does it mean. So artificial intelligence engine just means that we can train a system to do the heavy lifting manual work. So if there is 3,000 protocols of clinical trials for breast cancer, we can have the machine read through them and basically structure them and understand them. So in a way, if we had a group of 3,000 oncologists read through them, that's what we did. We created a machine that can read through them, which then allow us to have a patient come in and tell us about herself or himself and about his journey, about his cancer, treatment history, overall health, basically build his profile, tell his preference. At the end of this, which is a process that in TrialJectory will take you 5 minutes, at the end of it, you'll get matched to treatment, meaning the machine read through who you are and what's your profile, medical information, and match it to the treatments that are right for you. So something that will take an oncologist a week, take the machine 5 minutes. So at the end of it, you get a list, and the list already is what's right for you. So in 5 minutes, you see your option. So that's step number 1, though. It's not enough. Now, like you said, I don't want you to just have a list of options that are meaningless for you. I want you to have a list of options that mean something for you. So the next thing we did is train the machine to curate the information for patient-friendly language. So to basically present the treatment in a way that we will understand it. So not with all the medical buzzwords or research buzzwords, but actually tell us it's an immunotherapy combination with chemotherapy. And to tell us what we care about, how is the treatment given? How many times will I get the treatment? What's the goal of the study? Extend life, reduce side effect. Where is it running? Does it have where does it running? So basically all the information we care about in order to better understand it. And then we also rate it for you. So let's assume you have 5 or 6 options. And we know that today combination of therapy gives better outcome than single therapy. So the combination will be higher at the list. And we know that targeted, meaning that it goes after a specific mutation in your body, is better than a generic one. So it'll get higher. So we let the machine do all the legwork and give you like a list that all of a sudden makes sense, that all of a sudden the list of options. And then from there, there's 2 things you can do. And probably you should do both. We have a team in place that are there to help you understand. If you want more explanation, what's the clinical logic behind it? Was it tried on, is it approved for another cancer type? Or I'm not sure I understand it. Can you explain to me again how this drugs work and why does it work for my type of cancer? We have a team there that is able to talk you through and explain. And also you should and can share it with your oncologist. So share it with him and see what he says. What does he think? We had a patient that, came to her oncologist the day she was supposed to start chemo, but she was concerned. She had a recurrence. She felt like if the chemo didn't work the first time, why would it work again? So the same morning, she came with her bag for the chemo and came with this list. And our oncologist looked at it and said, wow, that makes more sense. It's a chemo with immunotherapy. So you have nothing to lose, only to gain. We team double against the cancer. Let's do the trial instead of you starting the standard chemo. Other patients might not feel completely okay with their oncologist. They're not sure that they can trust their opinion. Then we can help set them in the site where the trial is running so they can meet another oncologist that specializes and hear what he has to say. It's all about opening doors for a patient.
Most definitely. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're talking about arming yourself with information that is backed up. And I know that so many people would probably feel intimidated to take this to their oncologist, especially when none of this has been suggested to them. How do you tell somebody that, well, wait a minute, your scope of knowledge may only be this, but take a look at what I've, found out. I am my own advocate. That's got to be so difficult for so many people to actually take that step and
Sure.
say, look, I know you told me, like that woman, I needed, more chemo. We know it's not working. Look what I found. I dug in, I did research, I did real research. It's backed by technology, it's backed by, and it's backed by research, it's real. And they're not only taking a role, as you've said, is so important in their own well-being, but they're also kind of educating their oncologist, their provider, that no, it's not just, it's not just ABC, it's almost the whole alphabet.
Excellent.
I mean, is there a way of really getting people to understand that they need to be their own advocate? They really, it's okay to question.
I think it's an extremely important question and a point that you're raising. I'm gonna. We need to look at it from several angles. We cannot let fear determine our outcome, right? And if we want, we cannot be the fact that we're afraid of our oncologist or afraid of hurting his feeling determine the outcome for us. We're fighting for something bigger here now. We're fighting for our life. So we have to understand that, with all the respect to the feeling of the oncologist, if they will be offended by us coming to them with additional options, that maybe they're not the right one for us.
Exactly.
Maybe their ego is you need to make sure that ego is not the driver. If they're offended by me giving them additional, like you said, educating them about what's out there, showing them that there is additional option to treat me, then it means that they're driven by their ego and not my best interest at heart. And do I really want someone who doesn't have my best interest at heart take care of me? That's what you need to ask yourself. And by the way, when they did a survey with oncologists, majority of them did say that they would love to teamwork with their patient, and they do appreciate patient coming in and giving them more option, because they are aware of their limited time and to expose themselves and to research per patient. So I think we will find that some oncologists embrace it, and those that don't, like we said, I challenge you to ask yourself, do they have my best interest at heart? And more importantly, by the way, there is a lot of research done that shows that patients that are involved in their decision making have better outcome.
Yes.
So we should not forget it. Us taking charge over our life, over the decision, by itself promise us a better outcome. I think, mind and body connection is real.
It's very true. So clinical trials, most of us think of it as something, not only as we talked about at the beginning, that is a last resort, but we also think of it that you have to be a special person in order to be able to get into the clinical trial, that there's some magic of getting in. And that really isn't true, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. The reason that so little of patient got into clinical trial is going back to what we said, accessibility. If doctors don't know about it and they're not offering it to us, we can't be, then we don't know about it and we don't participate in them. Today in oncology, clinical trials has been recognized by the NCCN, which is basically the Bible of oncologists, as the best management for patients. So it's been shown to majority of the cancer type to give us better outcome. And it doesn't require any unique personality or capability. Like we say, the art is just because each trial have a very specific set of attributes of criteria of who is the ideal patient, who is the legit patient for that. So there is no magic. All we need is to create this match between your medical profile and the clinical profile of the trials. Once we've done that, that's it, you're in. And the advantage of clinical trial, by the way, from a patient perspective, is not only you get the access to the most advanced treatment, you're actually being monitored more carefully because the pharma is paying for it and not the insurance. So you're being monitored more carefully. The level of care is a little bit better. So there is actually a lot of advantage from a patient perspective to be part of a clinical trial versus the standard of care.
You know, you just mentioned something. The farmers are paying for it. Not farmers, the
Yeah,
pharmaceutical
pharma,
companies.
pharmaceutical. Sorry.
Most people will automatically go to their insurance company and they're told they can't, you know, they're not going to be covered by insurance for it. So people will step back.
Yeah, which is wrong, which is not the case. That's the whole. So once you're in clinical trials, your insurance will only have to cover the regular test that you would have gotten anyway. All the extra care, the extra testing, and the cost of the drug is on the pharmaceutical company. They're paying for it. And by the way, a lot of the time, if there is additional things that the insurance is not willing to pay, or there is additional cost in terms of travel and lodging, they might be able, some of them will be able and willing to cover those as well from the patient perspective. So there is no financial incentive to participate in a trial, and should never be.
Right.
But there is no barrier from a financial point of view and coverage point of view to participate in it either.
Now, I know that how did you finance? I'm just going to come right out and ask you, how did you finance this? You know, you were a startup. What you're talking about is a lot that goes into it. How was this financed?
So we started what's called bootstrapping, which basically the four of us, I mentioned Avital, I also have two more partners, Noam and Guy, that build the technology and the platform, with just the four of us working on it and building it ourselves to see that we can do it and make it work. Once we saw that it's actually working, we went to the tech industry venture capital and basically ask them to invest in us and believe in us that we can make this work and that we can make good in this world and make a significant change. And we also show them and so that's how we started. And we are backed by VC money, as they call it. And what we show them, that we can make and bring value to patients and actually give it as a free service to patients, so they don't have to pay, because we know that the cost of being cancer patient right now, it's the number one reason for personal bankruptcy, right? You cannot work anymore. You have so many medical bills that are accumulating, and it's a scary period. So it was very clear for us from the get-go that we are not going to charge patient for it. But like we said, this from a patient perspective, finding the right treatment is a black box. It's from the pharmaceutical perspective, finding the right patient is also a black box. And we felt like if we go to them and we give them information, we give them information around patient, not individually, but we teach them and we let them see how the patient journey looks like. What is the barriers from a patient perspective? Where is the discrepancy between how they look and design a drug and a trial versus the real life and the real world data of patients? Where our patients are versus where the hospital that they're distributing and running the trials. That's worth a lot of money for them, because it helps them reduce operational costs. It helps them expedite time to market, and they're willing to pay us for that. So it's kind of a win-win for us.
Wow. When it's not just a win-win for you, it's a win-win for all patients diagnosed with that awful word with the letter C, cancer.
Exactly.
I mean, look what you've invented, and it's free. You're giving people the knowledge all in one area as to how they can you're empowering these people to take a role in their own survival.
Exactly. And I think it's important to also say that we're really about giving you your entire option. So we talked a lot about the clinical trials because we honestly believe it's unmet need of patient, but we will share, when you come to the platform, you are actually going to be able to see other patients like you, their journey. So again, not individual, not name, but you'll be able to see what treatment they've received and what was the outcome for them. So you kind of see all your care options. So the approved drugs, you see the clinical trials, and you get a really good view. If my doctor say, no, you don't need a clinical trial. Here, go on Keytruda. you also see that, 60% of the patient with exactly the same profile of you, not just really personalized, have received Keytruda, but 45% of them has disease progression, 12% of them had toxicity from the drugs. Then all of a sudden you realize it's not it's not necessarily giving you a better odds than something else. You all of a sudden have a lot of data points to assess your option and make a decision about what makes most sense for you. And that's what we're about. Your journey, your treatment, your decision as a patient.
Well, and it all started from you looking for options, not answers so much, but options.
Exactly.
Where you could make the decision and talk to your oncologist and educate. Because as he said, all he knew, you asked him that very specific question. The options that he was giving you, were they the only options? They were the options that the facility that he was associated with, those were the options that they had. What else is out there? And he didn't know. So you have built with your other co-founder, TrialJectory. And as you just said, it's not just the clinical trials, but you're also educating people on other people who have similar, have the similar type of cancer that they have, and what has worked and what hasn't. So it's not that you're pushing people to clinical trials. You're giving them as much information as they could possibly find, which they wouldn't have found, in a language that they could understand. So it seems like you've actually done quite a bit. Is there anything else is there another goal for TrialJectory for the company? Are you sticking to this and there's so much more that you can do with it?
Oh, the goal is still up there. There's still a lot we need to do to achieve the goal. I really want to be the go-to place. So I want to be able to show you all options. So first of all, we are now supporting 12 indication cancer type. There is more that we need, and we're adding new ones every month or so to the platform. I want to be able to give you more information. So if it's a trial, we will be able to show you if it's a phase 3, what happened in previous phases, what happened on what was the result in other indication that it was this. So we're all about, like you said, information in a way that I understand, that empower me to understand my options, and giving you approved drug, and then what is called repurposed drugs. So drugs that are being approved for other maybe cancer type, but for the same profile as you, because we know now there is more and more similarities between in terms of behaviors of specific cancer types across cancer types. So basically open a world of options to patients. That's where I want to be.
Okay. So I'm not going to ask you some of the typical questions, words of wisdoms that you would give people, because I think we've been talking about them all along, and that is take control of your own life, of what's going on with your body. Take control. So what do you do for downtime?
Listen, I don't have a lot of downtime, and I have 3 girls that are kind of getting into the teenage phase of their life. So the joy is not there. I do enjoy pre-COVID to travel and read. Travel was pre-COVID, read I still enjoy. But it's funny, and I think, you can relate to that. When you build something that you're so passionate about, it's not just a job, and it's not just a company. This is a mission for me. So for me, that it's doing it all day is what my girls blame me for, but what I enjoy most. So like every time I have a little bit of time, should I just sit down, or should I do something, another idea, improve the platform, help and reach out to another patient, partner, physician. So my work is my downtime as well. And I think, today more than any day, I just read an article about how because of COVID, The numbers of misdiagnosed and late diagnosed of cancer patients are on the rise. And, even pre-COVID, it was already 1 out of 4 men, 1 out of 5 women. So cancer is more common than we would like to admit. And now it's even worse. So what I encourage everybody is those who didn't get tested, defer their mammogram, colonoscopy, blood works, go get tested. Make sure that you go back to your routine testing. Do what you need to do in order to make sure that you're in good health and you're not missing anything. That's the only words of wisdom I can give anybody.
They're fabulous words of wisdom. So what is the website?
So the website is TrialJectory.com, www.trialjectory.com, of course. And if you know of any, hopefully if you are fighting cancer, someone you loved fighting cancer, someone you know of, send them to our website. We're there to help them. One of the patients referred to us as their virtual buddies. So this is what we're there for, to help patients and help hold their hand and help them navigate through this really complex journey and hopefully meet them at the other side healthy.
Well, Tzvia, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to really, not just for today, but for everything you're doing and for helping to educate people that they really can take hold of their life and decisions about their health. And you've given them a platform where it's all there and you keep building on it. So thank you. And I thank you for everyone who is going through this and really should go up on your website.
Thank you, Sylvie, so much. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You can find us on all of your popular podcast platforms. And of course, our website, sylviame.com. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned.